Yeah, Jackie, Juwan, one of the most treasured places in our oceans are our coral reefs. And for good reason. Not only are they tourist destinations, but 30% of marine life make their home on coral reefs. They help provide oxygen, food, and jobs. But those reefs are experiencing unprecedented losses, particularly in Australia. The images are shocking. Australia set ablaze on an unprecedented scale.
The fires are really easy to see how dangerous they are. The extreme heat is Australia's deadliest natural disaster.
Record temperatures pose many direct threats to human health and the environment here, but it has also fueled a crisis in the ocean.
It has impacts on our ecosystems, things like our Great Barrier Reef.
The Great Barrier Reef is an Australian icon, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It's the world's largest coral reef, so massive it's visible from space. 2 million visitors come to this reef each year, generating $6.5 billion for the Australian economy. It's fused to the identity here, and it's dying.
The health of the Great Barrier Reef is actually not so good. In 2016 and 2017, we lost about half of all the coral present on the Great Barrier Reef.
Climate change is slowly devouring the reef. As the temperatures increase, the oceans heat. Warmer waters causes corals to stress and could cause a mass die-off known as bleaching.
If a reef goes through a mass bleaching event, then almost all corals on the reef will pale. And then if they cannot re-establish that relationship with the algae, they will die.
And that bleaching is usually followed by the loss of fish and other species that rely on the reef. Australia has already warmed by 1 degree Celsius. The waters of the reef have warmed even more. 2/3 of the reef have seen sea surface temperatures rise between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius above normal. Scientists fear the reef may see a 3rd mass bleaching in the next 5 years. In fact, over the last 30 years, the world has lost half of the ocean's corals, and Florida has not been spared.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The state of the Florida Reef Tract is dire.
I would suggest that for the first time in human history, we are witnessing potentially the loss of an ecosystem.
We've had episodes of climate change related bleaching episodes that have caused corals to die off.
But Florida's reeling reefs have the insult of another climate change fueled culprit to contend with: stony coral tissue loss disease.
It's probably the worst coral disease outbreak that's ever been recorded anywhere in the world.
Like the Great Barrier Reef, our tract is part of our identity.
The reefs are everything. They're what people's livelihoods are based on. It's what people's social lives and memories and experiences are based on. And without the coral, no one's going to have those memories in the future.
Each year, reefs generate an estimated $4.5 billion locally and account for 70,000 jobs.
So all of those things that we take for granted that sustain our essentially tourist economy are going to be lost.
For our kids, our grandkids, we'd like them to know what a coral reef is outside of a book.
What does the future look like for corals if we do absolutely nothing as far as climate action goes?
Curbing climate warming is critically important to try and save coral reefs. If we don't achieve that, there's very little hope for coral reefs.
Even though almost all of the fires have been put out in Australia and the rest are under control, the Great Barrier Reef is still in great danger. In fact, the Australian federal government has recently downgraded the outlook of the reef to very poor. And a U.S. government analysis reports that the reef may be about to experience its worst bleaching ever. For a more in-depth version of this story, you can visit NBC6.com. On our website, just search Unprecedented or visit our YouTube page. Tomorrow, we'll continue Unprecedented. At 6, we look at the media and political landscape of climate change in Australia and, of course, right here in South Florida, guys.
Angie, I had the opportunity to dive the Great Barrier Reef, but this was like 12 years ago. Have they said in Australia that there's been significant change from that amount of time to now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you talk to scientists and researchers, they dive all the time, and they've been diving over a long period of time, and they've definitely noticed colors of the reef becoming less vibrant, the bleaching events occurring. And it's not just Australia. I also went out on our Florida Reef Tract with the Coral Restoration Foundation and saw it for myself, and they too said the same kind of thing. It's just not as vibrant. It's really sad. So everyone coming together to try and combat this, and I think climate action is really what they stressed is the only thing that we can do to actually fix this.
And you're bringing attention to that. Angie, thank you so much for that reporting. Some good work out there.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Well,